Hey everyone, Terry here, and today we're going to be working on replacing the center support bearing on my BMW Z3. Let's get into it. Now, I initially started this project because I did notice that the flex disc had a lot of cracks and it was heavily worn. So I went ahead and proceeded to dig in and just go hard in replacing everything that I can after the drive shaft has been removed, so that way I won't have to go back in there and replace anything else. So we went ahead and I took the exhaust off, the drive shaft, I took off the first half of it apart. I rebuilt the gear shift. So now we're going to go back and start putting the drive shaft back together. So before we get into that, let's quickly go over some of the tools you may need for the project. All right, very quickly, you're going to need a 3-jaw puller. This is going to help you remove the center support bearing. The drive shaft on the Z3 is smaller, so I think the 6-inch should do the trick, but in case it doesn't, I do have an 8-inch just in case, so make sure you have that. You're also going to want some punches, so that way you can kind of tap the bearing bag on. Make sure they are blunt. You don't want like a hole punch. You don't want to actually, puncture and damage the bearing. So make sure it is a flat, blunt end punch. You're going to need a screwdriver so you can remove the dust caps. Make sure you go ahead and buy all your all the replacement parts. You're going to need the front and rear dust cap for the bearing, as well as a new snap ring, as well as the center support bearing. That pretty much covers the main things. You will need snap ring pliers as well. I wanted to get a good set from Lowe's, but they were sold out, so I had to go get some cheap ones from Walmart. I don't know if these are going to work, so you can get a good sturdy pair. So if this doesn't work out, I'll have to go to Harbor Freight or Home Depot and see if I can find a sturdier pair. But we'll see if this works. You're going to need an impact to use with the 3-jaw puller. So make sure you have that. And then you're going to need a hammer. And of course, you're going to need your sockets to work this as well. And I believe a 13mm socket to actually disconnect the center support bearing from the underside of the car if your drive shaft is still partially connected. I did mention earlier, in order to do this project, you will need to fully remove the exhaust in order to get access to the drive shaft. So go ahead and make sure you have that done. If you don't know how to do that, go ahead and check out my previous video on removing the exhaust. As for removing the drive shaft, that's going to be pretty much the same as well. Some models, you might have an extra bolt in the U-joint behind the center support bearing that you'll have to break free. That's like an 18mm bolt. You have to break free in order to remove that center support bearing. The Z3 does not have that bolt, so it's going to be easier for me to get mine off. And I already got the first half of the drive shaft taken apart. If you don't know how to remove the drive shaft, I also have a video that I did earlier showing that process as well. Go back and check that out. All right, now from under the car, you can see that I have the front half removed. Make sure you mark your drive shaft before you pull it apart, so that way you can make sure you align it back the right way when you put it back together. So I already pre-marked everything on here. Now, like I said, some BMWs will have a bolt, like a nut right in here that you'll need to take a wrench into to loosen on this U-joint right here. The Z3 doesn't have one in there, so you can skip that part. And these are, I believe, 13mm to actually unhook it from the car. Now, what you could do to inspect it before you take the drive shaft apart, you could do like a shake test to see how much play there is. If you can actually like jiggle the drive shaft around, that's a good sign that the bearing is worn. You can also inspect the rubber and see if it's all dry rotted and cracked. That'll be another good sign. If it's really bad, this part will just be completely separated already from the drive shaft. It'd be kind of like free hanging. That's when you've completely blown it. That would be the most obvious. But otherwise, sometimes it can look good, but the bearing itself could be wore out, and it'll start to make like a rattling sound or like a clicking sound. Usually we'll start with a clicking sound, and then when it gets really bad, it'll start to make a rattle sound. But since I already came this far into rebuilding the gear shift, I might as well replace the center support bearing since I'm under here. And these have a lifespan of 50 to 100,000 miles. And of course, that's going to come down to how frequently you drive, as well as how aggressively you drive is going to impact how fast these wear out, as well as the quality of the product. Are you getting like a high quality product, or are you getting like a real cheap little $30 part from like AutoZone? So make sure you're getting quality parts, so that way they will last you a lot longer. And of course, upgrade your parts. If you're going to be doing any kind of auto sports, don't use these rubber ones. Get yourself a high quality like polyurethane one or something, so that way you could take more beating if you're doing like racing or drifting or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get this taken apart. Now on mine, there is going to be a snap ring on the inside here. Don't know if you guys can actually see it, but there's going to be a snap ring on the inside right here that I'll have to remove. And then I can get this dust cap off on this side. And then there's also a dust cap at the rear side right here that will need to be replaced as well. Now, the 3-jaw puller is what we're going to use to pull this apart. There's a chance, being that this is all one piece, it might struggle, so I might have to rip the rubber to take this part off so I can just grab onto the bearing to release the bearing. So we'll see if I can get it all off as one piece, but just keep that in mind that if you can't pull it as one piece, just break the rubber and this bracing off, so that way all you have is the bearing on here, and then go ahead and use the 3-jaw puller to pull on the bearing itself. So let me go ahead and we're going to get that snap ring off. At least I'm hoping I can get it off with that cheap tool that I got. And then I will pop off that dust cover. I'm going to put some white lithium grease on the spline here. That's just going to help, so that way as I start pulling, it'll help that bearing slide off a little easier as well. Alright, so now you should have a better view of the snap ring that's in here, right here. Again, I have a really cheap, flimsy snap ring pliers, so these might not work. So we're going to see if this cheap set will work. I might be making a trip to the tool store to get a more durable pair. Put the 45-degree head on the snap ring pliers, and I think that'll give me the leverage I need. The straight one is not the way to go. Okay, so I managed with the cheap little flimsy pliers to snap this one end kind of up, so I just got to get this other end popped up. So my big issue is I think my pliers are technically a little small. I need to be able to pry, like, so when I'm prying it, like this is as far as these will go. If I could have these go a little lighter, I could easily pop this off, but these ones max out a little too soon. So a sturdier pair that can open wider would make this a lot easier to just slip that off. Alright, so I almost got it out. So I got the one part that pop up, and I've just been using my little pry bar, and I'm working my way around, forcing this clip to slide up here. But yeah, if I had a snap ring plier that had a wider spread, this would have been significantly easier, and I would have been able to just spread it and pull it off. Sorry about that, dropped you guys, but I got it. So yeah, it'll be a lot easier putting it on than it is taking it off, since I got this cheap tool. But yeah, do yourself a favor, get yourself a quality snap ring set of pliers, so you don't have to fight with this thing. Now we got this little dust cap in here that I need to get out. I could probably, honestly, there we go. There we go. I get some pliers. And you get this dust this lovely little dust cap off right there. Now this is just finger tight because I already loosened this before. Otherwise you would loosen these bolts here. These are just the 13s. Okay, so I went ahead and I got another jack stand, and I'm using that to help support the drive shaft, because if I have it come all the way down, it's going to stress out that U-joint. So that's holding that end up. This end here is now unsecured, and I'll be able to use this to pull off the center support bearing now. So let's go ahead. I can easily get behind here if I need to tap it to get started. I'm going to put some lithium grease on here, some white lithium grease to help the bearing slide off. And we're going to get my 3-jaw puller, and we're going to give this thing a good yank. Let's get my grease on here. Hope I don't have to rip this part off. I might have to go up to the 8. Just might. Have to upgrade to the 8 because I think my 6 isn't quite gonna reach. Just might. We'll see if it works, otherwise I'll upgrade to a bigger claw here. Alright, so if anything, we're going to pull the front part off of the bushing, which is alright. Alright, I'm going to loosen this because this is starting to go sideways and I don't want to damage my spindle. That would be a bad day for me. Let's take this off. I think I'm going to upgrade to the bigger one too. That might make it a little easier as well. So we'll switch over to the 8-inch jaw. Alright, I upgraded to the 8-inch claw. I'm trying to break it off of the bearing. So I want to grab the bearing itself. Okay, it is a new day and I have a new plan. So before, I had tried to pull off that center support bearing and I wasn't getting anywhere. All I was doing was stretching out the rubber and I wasn't getting any resistance pulling on the bearing itself. So my plan is I want to cut the rubber and remove that outer bracket so I can pull directly on the bearing itself. Now that is something I can do from under the car. However, I had also noticed that the rear differential mount is also bad and I need to replace that. So I ordered a new poly bushing for that mount. So in order for me to change that, I have to fully remove the drive shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and take the other half out so I can do that other additional repair. Otherwise, I would just continue doing it from under the car. But I keep adding to my to-do list for projects. So I keep finding more things that need to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get under there. We're going to remove that drive shaft and then we're just going to extract that bearing from outside of the car, which would hopefully be easier anyway because it'll give me more room. So that should go a lot more smoothly. And then I can go ahead and replace that mount bushing on the differential as well. And I think I also might need an, the output shaft seal, I think is what it's called. The rear output shaft seal, I think, is also leaking on the driver's side. I've noticed some oil coming out. It's not like dripping or anything, but I see some seepage. So that's another thing I'm going to need to look into, because it would be easier for me to remove that CB axle from the differential with my exhaust out than doing it later with the exhaust back in. So I may be doing that in a future video, is I might be adding that to my to-do list, as well as fixing that seal. So more work. But let's go ahead, get back under the car and get the rest of the differential removed. All right, I'm back underneath the car. This is the rear of the car here. And here's where the drive shaft is connected to the differential. I went ahead and I marked this hole right here, because they have this extra hole right here. So I marked it so I would know that that's where the bottom is and that no bolt actually goes there. So I don't somehow manage to make a mistake and try bolting it to the wrong one. So I'm just going to make sure it's going exactly the way it was, so there is no issues with anything. And this is a 16 millimeter. There isn't enough room in here for me to get a socket. So I'm going to have to use the old wrench technique on this. And I'm going to break these two loose. Then I'm going to release the parking brake so I can rotate the drive shaft to get the other two. There's 4. And then we'll go ahead and get those taken off. Also, real quick, turn my lighting on. You can see we got some oil seepage right here on the CB axle right here. This one looks good. I don't see any fresh oil on the passenger side, so that one's still good. The boot looks okay. I mean, the boot looks fine. I'm not seeing any cracks or anything in it, but if we come around to the other side, it could be the seal, but it could be I think it's the seal, because it looks like all of the oil is coming right around this ring here. It's completely dry all the way around here. So if it was this seal in here, I should have oil coming out from under here, and I don't have any coming out from there. So it might just be right here that's leaking. So that's something we'll figure out on another time. And then the bushing for the mount that we're going to also replace is right here. As you can see, whoops, try to get the camera in there, but you can see it's completely, now it's kind of supposed to have a little bit of a press in right there, but mine has completely separated. It's starting to kind of bubble away from the ring right there, and there's cracking and stuff. So this could also be contributing to the clunk that I have. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to be replacing this bushing as well. So that's coming. See if we can't get these loose here. Oh wow. All right, let me get some penetrant, and then we'll let that soak in for a little bit, and then we'll try some more. All right, so got the penetrant on. Got it. That one's loose, and I broke this one loose off camera, and now I got that one loose. So now I gotta drop my, I gotta release the parking brake so I can spin that to get the other two loose. Now, I can spin this around. Like that. And I'll put the parking brake back on so it doesn't move, and I'll break the other two loose. Okay, went ahead, and I also marked this one. This was originally the top part. Honestly, it won't matter if this was top or bottom, but I want to have it everything the way it was originally, so I know I didn't put anything together wrong. Let me go break these two bolts loose. And make sure you invest. If you have to use wrenches, make sure you invest in one of these wrench breaker bars, because these come in clutch. All right, that one's good. And that one's good. All right, now we can go ahead and take these off. Now these are lock nuts. You'll have to replace these when you take them off. And then it'll just pop right out. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna detach the center support bearing, and then I should be able to just slip this right out. I do have a jack here to catch it so I don't fall. And now it is out. Well, that's off. Just kind of inspect in here and see if we see anything. It looks all right. Checking to see if there's like any oil pooling around that I might have another like a leak or anything, but everything looks fine. The lubrication is just from the penetrant, so we're good there. Now I could have removed this other half on day one when I removed the front half, but I was being cheap because I didn't want to have to buy those locking nuts, because you need 4 locking nuts and they're like $13-14 a piece, and then you got to still spend it, you know, then you still got tax, and then you still got to spend at least another $10 to $20 on shipping. So that's a lot of money to be spending on 4 nuts. So I was being cheap. But now that I have to do that differential mount bushing, I have kind of no choice but to remove the back half. But at least now that the back half is off, I'll be able to access the carrier bearing a lot easier, and we can hopefully get this off. All right, so first I'm gonna try just cutting the rubber. If I can't get it, then I got my rotary tool and I'll cut the metal bracket as well. Because I want to get all of this removed so I can get straight to the bearing itself. All right, perfect. Well, let me use my jaw tool here and see if I can pull this part off. If it separates with the bearing, that's fine. Doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to cut that, but I might be able to grip this and pull it. I'm gonna need to adjust. Mine's got these adjustable fasteners here, so I can bend it. I gotta loosen it so I can get it on, and then I gotta retighten it, and then I'll be good to go. All right, jaw is tightened. Let's see if this will come off or not here. If I start to tighten it, this part always goes on an angle, and it leaves it, it's starting to make an indent. I can't keep this part straight. See if I can't keep it so it screws in without that twisting in a weird way. I don't really have the best grip, so it's not gripping on this one, but maybe I just got to get that rubber part off of the bushing, or the bearing I mean, so. It's doing it again where it keeps tilting, and I don't want it to tilt because this is what's happening. As that tilts, it's leaving like this indent off to the side, and I don't want this to make it to where whatever goes here, I don't want it to slip. But it just always wants to go in on an angle. I can never get it to just go screw in straight. I think it's finally biting properly. It's still going straight, so that's good. Now let me use my power tool and see if I can get it without it slipping. Yeah, victory! We got it. There's the stinking bearing, and there's the dust cap from the back. We got it. Good deal. Now we can go ahead and tap the new one on. All right, so I went ahead and I re-marked my marks because they're starting to fade away, so I can line everything back up again when I put it back together. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a little silicone spray on here because I want to make sure I can get that bearing to kind of slip over nicely. So I got the replacement right here. I went with Rein, and all your apartment number information, everything will be right here for you if you're interested in getting this one. And then we got the two different dust covers. This is the one that goes on the back. Here's your part number information. Again, you can always just pause if you want to see this. Otherwise, I'll have all this information in the info section of the video here. And then this is the dust cover that goes in the front. And then a new snap ring. Now when you're putting on your center support bearing, you want to make sure you have it going the right way. So you have this flat one edge right here. This is the back. The part that has more of a lip goes towards your transmission. Alright, so it's going to go on just like that. So I need to get my dust cover on first. My new one. It's going to sit on here just like that to protect it from getting dirt and stuff in that bearing. Let me put the bracket for the busted one kind of underneath here so I can kind of raise this up so that way I'm not scraping the ground. Alright, I might just kind of get it seated, and once the bearing gets against it, maybe I can get it to go on straight that way. And the fun part is tapping the bearing on. That's going to be difficult. I need to kind of straddle the thing so it's not sliding backwards as I give it some little love taps. And make sure you don't hit your splines. And then just keep tapping it until you get it to bottom out. Okay, so what I'm doing is I got the bearing kind of tapped on about halfway, and what I started to do is I took my little pry bar and I started to kind of pry the dust cap, the little dust protecting cover on, so that way it's seated all the way around. So now that's on there nice and firm. So that way now I can tap the bearing the rest of the way. Kind of keep it lifted off the ground. All right, tap it the rest of the way. The bearing has bottomed out to where the dust cover is. Now, the matter is, I have to try to remember if I have to shove this all the way down here or not. Alright, so I double checked with some Z3 experts online, and they told me that it looks good because I have it completely seated up tight against the dust shield right here, and it doesn't go any further than this. So they told me that I have it on far enough, it doesn't go any further than that. So this is snug, like this isn't budging. I got it as tight as I could get it, and it still freely spins, which is good. So that part is done. Let's go ahead then and put on the other dust cap and that snap ring. All right, so there's kind of like a ring on the spline in the back that kind of dips in a little bit, and that's where the snap ring is supposed to sit. So as long as you're far enough back to where you can get your snap ring to sit there, then you have it. So let's go ahead and see if I can get mine to lock into place. So I got the new dust little protected cover here that slides in like that. And then my replacement snap ring. And I did buy some new snap ring pliers. So this should be a lot easier for me hopefully this time around, now that I don't have that cheap Walmart pair that I had, because that was very difficult to use. There we go. Now it's in that groove. Perfect. That's how it'll look. Just make sure you skid that. There's a tiny groove in here that needs to lock in, so just make sure you get it in there. But there we go. We got the new bearing on. So I am done with the drive shaft for now. And that is how you replace the center support bearing on the BMW Z3. This process is going to be pretty much the same on all BMWs, especially the later model BMWs like your 3 Series. But there may be some variances in how to disassemble the drive shaft. But if you have any questions about anything, make sure you check out all my previous videos on how to disassemble the drive shaft from the car and things of that nature. But that's going to pretty much cover it for today. I'll have more content coming soon with working on that differential mount bushing, as well as replacing the CV axle boot, and then the replacing the flex disc and reinstalling the drive shaft, as well as the exhaust, to complete the project. So plenty more videos to come. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of that content, and make sure you go ahead and check out all of my previous videos that I've made if you are new, and I hope you enjoy it. And you can also follow me over on Instagram at CoolCatTerri. Thanks again. I'll see you on the next one.